What I'm going to talk about today is guidelines for moving plant, what we're doing in Downer and what we've done previously to come up with some, what I'd like to call simple methods and that we can implement into the business. So I'll go through it. So Downer in Australia and New Zealand carried out a research study on all of the incidents with mobile plant that we had. It was called pedestrian plant interface, and it was quite complicated, so we've streamlined it down to guidelines around mobile plant. What we found from the research is that what we knew, this was confirmed by the research, in New Zealand, and these are just only the New Zealand stats for 5 years, we found that we had incidents where pedestrians involved with mobile plant or moving mobile plant was at 5.7%, and that means that we've had some sort of interaction between the plant or a near miss, and that was out of 234 reversing incidents, and that was out of the incidents that we got together on. So we've established that we actually have an issue in mobile plant, and we've actually made it one of our top critical risks inside Downer. So we had to go out and figure out how we were going to come up with a solution. So that was a study. We come up with the information, and then we formulated a plan to implement inside the business to reduce that number or build behaviours so that we get the right things happening out there. These are only about a snapshot of those plans. We wanted to deliver the actual plan at a leadership level, so everybody knew from the top down that that's the way we were going. We wanted site-specific training, traffic management, so we wanted to take what we found is that we had people relying on traffic management plans, and we wanted to focus more on what was happening inside the site. We didn't have control of that. And also we wanted to implement some sort of standard that we had to work by for the guys on the ground, and that's basically the training tool. So what we have is our mate over there waving at us instead of us in court or him in a bad place. So idea was to keep it simple. I think I'll touch on this later on in the presentation. What we're finding in the industry, along with everybody else here, is we have your procedure, and then you have your actual man following the procedure, and they don't always, one doesn't actually know the other exists, or they don't meet in the middle. So what we're trying to do is just focus on this person here and make sure that he understands what he needs to. And that's why I like this, what we've come up with. What we've done in Downer is we've come up with no-go zones and exclusion zones. It's a very, very, very simple idea. When the plant is moving, there is a no-go zone around it, whether it's in its pathway or a distance beside it, and nobody can go into it. Very, very simple. So nobody can approach that plant or be in close proximity. Once the plant stops, that no-go zone disappears. So it works with the supervisors out there that need to talk to an operator. They have to wait till it stops. The threat is isolated then. Then we have Exclusion zones. Now you are allowed in an exclusion zone, but you have to have some sort of formal training. And again, when I put up the next slide, you'll see how that sort of works. So this is some illustrations of how that would work, and again, like I said, keep it simple, get the message out there and make it easy to interpret. As you see here, we've got a roller and a grader. They move back and forth. When they're moving, the red zones are the no-go zones. Very, very simple. Again, here we've got a sweeper truck and a digger, and as you can see, when it's moving, it's a red zone. I think that way we can tell our guys it's very simple. You know, it can't be misinterpreted. There can't be any. I was having a discussion this morning. If sometimes we write procedure and then our guys are that sharp, they go out and find a loophole in it because we haven't thought of it, but they will. So we've got to be very simple, make it very, very easy. And as you'll see, I'll go on. Sorry, keep pushing the wrong button. It's not only just for civil works. This can be applied with forklifts, with EWPs, any sort of moving plant out there. So we're trying to think about the whole industry, not just what we're doing. And again, it's very simple. The zones, you do some training around the zones and where it should be, and what they mean. Let's see if I can get this right. Okay, also in this training that we're rolling out, we put a big focus on what the blind spots and dark shadows. Now there are called dark shadows in Australia, but it is literally blind spots. I don't know if the terminology will change, I'm hoping it won't. But we are putting a focus on understanding the plant and understanding what you can and can't see. Out in Skirt here at the moment, we ran a little exercise. We were doing work on the Triumphal Arch. We had stonemasons on there that usually work nowhere near mobile plant. So that's a Poltech 40-tonne rig that does screw piling, and we wanted them to get an understanding, and it was one of our superintendents that says, if you jump on it, have a look. We'll turn it off, make sure they can't start it up and start moving it around, but have a look, have a sit in there and see what you can see. And as you can see on the side here, that's what you can't see is in the dark. I don't know if it's very visible, but yeah, basically in the grey there, you can't see anything past that. Now that was a good thing, a good exercise that was covered there, and the feedback from the stonemasons was, we loved it, because we always wanted to sit in a big toy and never got the chance, but we do understand where we shouldn't be. So we are seeing a lot of that inside the Skirt projects, these initiatives that are coming out. Again, with diggers and plant, especially excavators, there are places that you shouldn't be, and again, it's fairly simple for our guys. We don't want to tell them to suck eggs, but we want to put some strict rules out there, or some rules out there that they can understand, and also the new guys in the industry, which are high risk, they can understand very, very simple. Part of this training also includes vehicle movement plans. Now, again, there was, when we did some research, we come up with people were relying on the TMP and assuming that because live traffic was under control, they were good to go inside the exclusion zone or their work zone, which is not the case. They're actually at quite a bit more risk in there. So part of the training that we're going to roll out involves vehicle movement plans, and it only relates purely to the work that's happening on the site. So getting the guys to think about what's happening on their site and how we can plan it a little bit better. Okay, so that's what a vehicle movement plan looks like in my mind. Well, put it this way, that's what a vehicle movement plan looks like. You've got your entry and your exit, you make sure it's a one-way, you know where the cars are parked, you know where you would shade in the areas where you wouldn't allow pedestrian foot traffic, distinguishing between no-go zones and exclusion zones, and it'd be nice and tidy like that. The reality is, it's going to look like that. This is what I want, and this is what I want to see, is that our guys are thinking it through. Very simple sketches, big lines, can't be misinterpreted. You can see over in the corner there, there's a sign-in sheet, no-go zone, big letters. I saw a control, an ID, hazard control, hazard ID filled out, and they were working with sewage. And one of the controls was, close your effing mouth, when they were working inside the sewage. And it was just clear that they were taught, all their controls, they all understood. It couldn't be misinterpreted. And that's what the language that we want them to have, is that they understand where they're communicating. Whether it comes out, it just shows that they've planned it. So we've also rolled out spotter training, and like Chris said, we actually rolled out spotter training throughout Downer as part of the Roading New Zealand guidelines. We got some training together, and that's been put through the whole of Downer now. And with our Skirt sites, it's also part of the criteria to have spotter training, have spotters on site, and it's not something new. for the guys, so they, if we do roll up on site, they know that they have to have these people in place. And this is the actual training package itself. Supervising traffic, plant and people, it's got a big name, but this is what we're going to be rolling out in hopefully the middle of this year or earlier. We're currently got the Australian model, and we've put 1,000 people through it. So there's 1,000 people in Australia have gone through it, and it's about what we just talked about with exclusion zones and no-go zones, and also vehicle movement plans. We're hoping to have this rolled out and then cover about 450 people in Downer by the end of this year. So, like I said before, we are finding that the message isn't getting to the right people, because usually the people that are designing the message are our engineers and site management, and they've been used to all their lives in their studying for exams, putting essays together, presenting, putting it in a format that looks awesome, and with a lot of words. Unfortunately, our construction crews, and this is no reflection on their intelligence, of course, aren't that way inclined about learning. They're kinetic learners. They learn by doing. They learn by feeling. So when we throw a lot of words at them, they're not too interested. So just something that we're trialling in Skirt at the moment to see how it goes, because we've identified that there is a gap. There's a work plan. Now, the work plan is guided by the engineer. There's a couple of points that he gives to the supervisor, but the supervisor is the owner, and so is the work crew. They decide what goes on there. It doesn't have to be about health and safety. It can be about quality. It can be about a communication about the stakeholders. There could be a point in there about, at number 42, we know that there's a person there on dialysis that needs water supplies. Something simple. But they own it and they create it. And you'll find if they own it and create it, they actually follow it. You can see if you've been to any of these JSCA briefings, it's a lot of talking by one person, and not a collaborative as we want it to be. But that doesn't mean the JSCAs go away. That just means that they sit at a different level, and we have our guys fill out these things. Now the idea is that that we have a vehicle movement plan in the middle there and a couple of drawings and stuff like that, and then it's slapped on the front of the site, so that the young guy that's brand new to site and doesn't want to say too much can have a sneaky glance. It doesn't go into the supervisor's ute or tucked away in the site office, and become part of the records. It's out there for everyone to see. We're hoping, we've had real good feedback from the subcontractors that we've been working with and our own guys about developing this. Like I like to say, they're professionals out there, and to get their buy-in, I think we have to treat them as professionals. They're skilled at their arts, and we shouldn't treat them any different. So I like to go out to the guys and go, "You're the top. Are you the top?" And they say, "Yep." And then, well, this is what we expect because you're the top. The All Blacks don't take shortcuts. So that's what we're trying to push the message out to our guys. So I don't think there's any questions because we're doing that later. Thanks a lot, guys.